Hello, everyone.
What's up, Matt? Well, they'll be back in a few minutes, but everyone, this is
Sounds good.
Matt Mugno, like I said, from Forever Blue Shirts and Puck Talk CS Pod, right? That's I'm saying that right?
That's right, man. I know, bizarre name. We got into the podcast game like before it was a popular medium. This was 2015, but it was like me and Steve, we were just like kicking it in our basement. And then like obviously it blew up pretty quick. Now you have Larry Brooks, you got Molly's on her pod, Vince is his pod, you guys have your pod, mind your pucking business.
Let's not give everyone a
Excuse my
plug, Matt.
French
Pump
on
the
that one,
brakes.
right?
Pump the brakes. Let's not give everyone a free plug. Only you. You're on the show.
I'll respect that here on Rangers
No,
Ed. But
I'm just joking. I'm just joking around. They're all mind your
no,
pucking
listen,
business.
I
We
know
love
you're a
Jeff
fellow
over there.
Paisan. Like I said before I got on air, man, we got to keep that knit tight. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I got to bust your balls. Coach Ed's going to bust your balls plenty in a few minutes when we get him back on. So don't worry about that. So yeah, I mean, I guess right off the bat, you said that's like an odd name. I mean, the Puck Talk seems to be pretty normal, but what's the CS stand for our fans?
The CS stands for, I was going for this moniker for a while, Chives. And it was also because I was in the 8th grade. So I was like, I don't really want my identity out there. Now, like, I got my Twitter's my name and everything. So that's where that came from. And then Steve. So yeah, odd name. We've been workshopping that for a couple of years, but we figured for now, like the people that know us know that's our name. So
Well, next time we'd love to have Steve on as well. I'm sorry I wasn't aware he was still as involved as you are. So, but next time we could definitely have him on.
sounds good, man. I'm sure he'd love it.
All right. So what else you want to tell us about? Like I said, you write for the Forever Blue Shirts right now.
Mhm.
I mean, just here's your chance. Plug yourself. Tell our fans where they can find you, where they can find your writing and stuff.
Yeah, Forever Blue Shirts. I was doing stuff there. Obviously, that's freelance based, and it's Joey Yeah, my man. Joey and I go back to QU. So yeah, I broadcast. So I also broadcast on ESPN Plus for RPI, men's and women's
That's really
hockey.
cool.
Army West Point. I do their fall sports, the whole collection, and I also cover their men's and women's lacrosse. The men's program is pretty good. So yeah, that's my background. I have a film background too. That's where I work. So doing video for water company. So yeah, everything's good, man. But in the Rangers sphere, I was with the Hockey News. I was working with Johnny Lazarus. He moved up to DFO, which was a great experience working with him, being at the practice facility at MSG. Unfortunately, a lot of the players that I built relationships with were traded last season, but it bodes well for our conversation today about Miller. So
Fair enough. Yeah, Johnny's a friend of the show as well. We've been trying to get him on, but he's just a busy man. Like I busted his balls the other day saying that he keeps blowing us off because he's a world traveler now. So he's all
yeah,
over the NHL, going to the draft and stuff. So good for Johnny. Proud of, or happy, not proud of him, happy for him. So yeah, PJ, you're back. We got Coach, or what's going on?
He's doing an internet reset, so hopefully a fresh start, and we'll see where he's going. But we'll go from there.
He got the extender for the backyard, and now the internet in the house isn't working very well. But we were watching the Met game. We were watching the Mets beat up on the Yankees the other night. No problem on the pool deck. But right now, Coach is having some internet problems. But it is what it is. So Matt, I don't know. Tell us about your last article. What's the latest article, or what's going on at Forever Blue Shirts?
man, I have not been cooking there for a little bit. I'll tell you that. I've taken some time. Like this was, this was probably the first time in a while I was comfortable with not going like 247, 365 just from after the spring season. It was my first full year broadcasting out of school. I graduated 2 years ago. And since then, like it's been just like nonstop. So yeah, I kind of took a step back from writing, but I'm excited to jump back in. It was also a little bit tough. Like at the end of the year, I was like, yeah, I don't know if I want to be like it kind of is what it was, right? Like I feel like at the end of the season, what we saw from the Rangers was pretty much what we were going to see. So I figured like until things pick up again, draft, free agency, that's like the best time to jump back in. And I have the time now. So I am excited to continue, but I don't have anything. I didn't cook anything up the last few months. So
All right, no doubt. Well, when you have something out, let us know. We'll repost it for you, and looking forward to reading it. But yeah, I mean, I feel you. We've been given the offer to write for Broadway Breakdown. Is a friend of ours, Nikki Blogs. He's been on the show, and his blog's been cooking. He's been writing a lot himself, but I hear you, man. It's a lot. It's hard to just sit down and write a piece. Very time consuming, I would imagine. I've never actually done it, but I do want to give it a try at some point.
Oh yeah, obviously very timely, and this year overall was like every week it was like something else was coming up. So I mean, in terms of for someone who is in that position of reporting, writing, like there was a lot of material to work with, but yeah, so with the writing front, not as much, but I've also been pushing more towards trying to build up like our YouTube and stuff. So, and being on the show with you guys is great. I was excited to hop on. Like I've listened, and it's fun. It's a small community here with the Rangers. So
Yeah, like I said, I was just busting your balls a little bit earlier. We have no problem shouting at other shows. We're all friends. We're trying to build a community here as well, and we're always looking for new faces and someone that we can bring in off the bench when one of us isn't available or something like that. So I'm looking forward to creating some more content with you and seeing what you could bring and stuff like that. So we'll get it.
Little
cooking.
Johnny Brodzinski action. You know what I'm saying?
Now we're talking, baby. You know,
That's
you
cool.
are a
That's
listener.
favorite
You
guy,
know
man.
my guy. You know my guy.
That's right.
All right, Coach. How we doing over there?
I think
back?
we're good now. Let's see what happens.
You sound much better.
That had the magic touch.
So Matt, I guess we'll just get right into it since you're chomping at the bit to talk some Rangers and get your feet back wet in the social game and that kind of thing. But before we do that, like I said, we only have Coach for an hour, so we were going to save this for the end of the episode, but we're going to jump right into Coach's Corner, and I hope you guys enjoy the commercial as much as we do.
Hey everybody, Coach Ed here. I'm over here in the shop at Bella Italia, Marble, Granite, and Quartz, picking up my order for a nice little bathroom I'm doing. I've been a contractor almost as long as I'm a hockey coach. So listen to me when I tell you, when you want the quality work and craftsmanship, come and see the boys over at Bella. They serve all 5 boroughs, Westchester, Long Island, all the way out to Montauk. Whether you're a Ranger fan, Islander fan, Devils fan, they're going to take care of you no matter what. Make sure you give them a call, 516-561-1018. Let's go Rangers.
All right, boys, bring it in. Well, at least Cousin Ed will get a chuckle when he sees the episode.
I know we always pick on you, but you look back to make sure you say it right, and then you still say it wrong. You say marble, granite, and quartz, and it says granite, marble, and quartz on the van. I just noticed that.
I ran through that like 3 times, and I just couldn't get it right. I'm like, all right, I'll get it right. What are you gonna do?
I think you said their sign outside is marble first, so I got to check that out next time I'm driving by. Maybe it is a true mix-up.
No matter how you look at it, get over there and make an order.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Coach Ed's Coach's Corner is sponsored by Bella Italia Marble over at Lawson Boulevard. YouTube, if you saw it on the commercial, a lot of amazing stuff over there. And there's Allie, our favorite New York Ranger girl. You can check her out on TikTok. She's blowing up over there and all over Instagram with her creative, with her creative TikToks. And she's a new listener of the show, and she binged it recently, which is crazy. She got to be sick of our voices at this point, but maybe not. Maybe not.
I could barely binge a show that I really like on television. God bless her.
Oh, you don't watch Seinfeld every single night for the last 40 years?
Well, it's not binging. I watch an episode and I fall asleep.
Well, I don't know how many episodes she's watching in one sitting, but whatever. We'll see. So, PJ, what do we got for Coach this week?
Yeah, so we were gonna with Coach coming on earlier than expected. We were gonna do you're sitting down, you're Sullivan. You see the moves they made. Let's see you write that lineup board, Coach. Who you got?
Well, I'm going to go with on the first line. I'm going to keep Zibanejad on the wing with JT, and I'm going to put Laffy on the other wing. And second line, I'm going to leave Troche, Panarin, and I'm going to put Cooley on that line. Feel he'll create some space with him and Trocheck style for Panarin to have some freedom. And then the third line, I'm going to go with. I'm going to keep Parsnip out there. I guess Barrad's going to be out there still. I'm not sure who are the forwards that we're going to look at on the third and fourth lines. Fourth line's Carrick, Rempe, and Edstrom. Automatic to start off.
We got Radish, right, PJ?
Yeah, Radish will probably be third line. Right, Coach?
So I'd go
Probably
Radish,
don't know.
either Barrad or Othman, and Parsnips to start it off.
I think you got to go Othman to start it, at least. I mean, I don't know if we're going to run through this, each of us, but I kind of agree with Coach pretty much all the way through. That puts Laffy back at his true position, right? Or has he always been a right winger?
No, he was naturally left. It took forever for him. Remember Gallant? It was a pain in the ass because he'd be like, no, he can't go to the right. He's not ready for the right. And then Laviolette put him there on the right with Trocheck and Panarin, and look what happened. Give him more options with his on his offside there.
Yeah, Matt, this is
I
kind of a discussion, so feel free to just jump in whenever you got something.
Yeah, I like that because you think like the whole reason that Kreider, I believe a major reason why Kreider was moved. You guys actually talked about it last epi, which I loved. Like, I think sometimes people are attached to the numbers, and when the reality is, I think part of it was about how he conducted himself during the season, right? Like, you had to move forward. That was a major part of it. The other part was when you look at the lineup sheet, how many left wingers do they have in the organization? Too many. And he was a left winger, was underperforming. Let's give Lafreniere his shot. He got the bag last year, and he didn't live up to that. So I think putting him in his natural position in that top six on that top line I think that works.
He can be very creative. JT Miller finds the seam passes to these guys, so I think Laffy can thrive in that position. Yeah, I'm looking forward to giving him the shot if it was me, that's for sure.
So it sounds like you guys are all in agreement that Perreault is going to start in the AHL unless he blows it away in the training camp.
Coach, you go first.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you have other guys that have been pushing, and Othman's paid his dues in the AHL for 2+ years. I think he should get the shot unless Perreault comes in and just lights it up in training camp and is,
unstoppable.
And there's no other choice. But I can't see it. He needs to get his legs with the AHL, in my opinion.
Well, it's definitely going to lead to some good. If the roster doesn't change between now and September, it's going to make some good training camp competition between him, Berard, and Othman. I think that's at least going to be fun to watch. And
yeah, for sure.
Judge, for me, I would love it to work if Mika starts at center. I know last year it was a shit show with him and he was better on the wing, but if he plays center, you can really deepen that lineup. So you could put theoretically Laffy, Miller, and Cooley on the first line, then Mika, with, I don't know, either one of the kids and Panarin, or flip Panarin and Laff. And then the third line, you could do like a mean and rugged matchup line between like Trocheck, Radish, and Berard or Othman. I think that could be a fun third line to match up. And then the fourth line, like you talked about. I mean, it's either way, you have your pros and cons, but I think if Mika can work at center, I think it's worth a try because it deepens the lineup. Because otherwise, the third line.
I like that because, is Sullivan going to go with the lineup we've seen? Gallant, now to Laviolette, now to Sully. Like, is Sullivan going to keep the lineup similar to how it was, or is he really going to mix it up? I'm open to seeing both. Like, I do like the chemistry some of the players have built, but you figure it's such an overhaul that maybe he's going to try some new things.
Yeah, I'm certainly excited.
If you keep Zibby on the wing, that's mixing it up because he only played the last half of the season like that. So if you're telling me you want to keep it the way Gallant and everybody else did, then you're putting Mika at center again. So that is kind of mixing it up. And I think that's too many question marks on the first line. Yeah, Cooley had a great season, but Laffy's got to prove a little more. There's a lot of question marks there to go out with those three together on the first line. Can it work? I'm not saying it can't work, but that's a question. That's two question marks. Those
sure.
guys
Yeah, I
are
got
not bona fide first line players yet, in my opinion.
Definitely agree with that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean-
definitely the clean slate's going to be nice, though. I'm excited just for fresh eyes, between the
Well,
first
let's put it
coaching
this
staff.
way: if I'm playing Florida, you think they're scared of that line?
Not
Yeah,
yet.
I actually think
Okay,
I
well,
think the
there you
Rangers
go.
suffer from that up and down the lineup, though. Something that I've been thinking about is with the Miller move, which I know we're going to get to. How much offense is really coming from the back end too? Like, it doesn't feel like there's the threat of load.
Miller wasn't a big threat on offense anyway, so let's get right on that right now. What do
That's
you mean
true.
taking him away? What did he get? What
Well,
does he
I was
do
going to
on
bring this
offense?
up when we talked to trade, but a lot of people don't realize this. Everyone talks about Gavrikov not being much, not that he's offensive, but how he's a defensive defenseman. The last 3 seasons, him, Gavrikov, and Keandre Miller have had the same amount of points. If you can believe that. So,
Yeah, so I
I think
don't
it shows
see
more.
Miller
It's a more
not live
detriment
up
to
his
Miller than it
offensive
is to
potential.
Gavrikov.
Mhm.
Well, Gavrikov's not getting paid to put up points. I mean, you guys keep saying that he's going to be a little lead favorite, and I love hearing that. I mean, he's getting paid to play defense and hopefully to be a very good, sturdy partner for Fox, and so he could spread his wings a little bit, right? So,
Well,
I
that's a
think
good
Fox
segue
has to
here.
be better.
Matt, you can come on the show anytime you want.
Well, that's 100%.
Oh, here we go. No, but that was
Yeah.
a good segue. Now, Coach, what's your defensive pairs? Because that's really
I'm going to
where
go
things-
with Gavrikov and Fox, and then I'm going to go with Schneider. And I don't know. I'm not sure of the lefty righty.
Borgen.
So, yeah, Borgen would be my pick with Schneider because then that could open up Schneider to be a little more offensive, which I think his potential. I think if he gets a little bit more of a free reign and creativeness, he'll put up better numbers than Miller did last year for sure. And then I would go with Robertson, Vakanainen, and who was the other D we just got?
Moro. So you're scratching Susie?
Well, it's still up in the air. I mean, I don't know. I got to see training camp. I mean, Susie's an NHLer for what, 4 or 5 years now.
More
He's
than
got
that,
the
yeah.
size. I wouldn't mind giving him the shot and letting Robertson battle with Morrow in training camp. But Vakanainen, I really like on the back end, steady.
Well, to Matt's point about the offense from the blue line, that tells me, and especially with this trade, that Morrow needs to play. I think. I mean, obviously, he has to make the team. You can't just play like shit and still play.
We
But
got to pencil him in.
yeah, he's got to be.
Well,
But they need a second power play guy, too.
offense from the defensive core is going to come from the forwards playing better in the offensive zone. So that's what we're hoping Sullivan's going to bring to the table: a better attitude, a better forecheck, a better determination. I can't really think of the word right now. And then when the D's joining, that's when you get the offense. You know, any NHL defenseman is going to be able to pretty much shoot the puck if the forwards make the right plays and they get open. And it's, so you're going to get the offense if the forwards are playing better. Last year was we don't have to keep saying it. It was disgusting. But if the forwards play better, then we have defensemen. Even Vakanainen showed a little bit of offensive skill here and there. Borgen got a couple of goals. If the offense plays together, they'll be able to produce. So I'm not overly concerned. And Fox has got to pick it up, like Matt said. Obviously, the power play struggled, and that's where your offense is going to pick it up. There's a lot of factors that have to improve. So, but the competition, I think, is going to bring that on a lot better.
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say that before. I think the young kids that everyone wants to see in the lineup, that's the positive. It's going to bring the competition to training camp for hopefully to wake up some of the vets that we need to wake up and wake up some guys like Laffy, who at this point, I mean, obviously he signed the big ticket, but one of these kids could pass him, like Perreault. They have a lot of potential, I mean, who knows how they're actually going to turn out. I mean, not to go back, but what I just said, Perreault, like to me, he just has to put on the size before he even thinks about cracking the lineup. I mean, I still think Othman's a little undersized, but at least he plays a little bit bigger, So I think that's where that is going to get screwed up. But back to the defense, I agree with Vakanainen, and I agree with, like Coach Ed is saying, like a good team structure defensively and And in the offensive zone, the neutral zone, every zone, a good team structure in general is going to bring that production. I mean, obviously we want Fox to be close to that 100-point defenseman, but you look at a team like Florida, you look at other teams that are successful in the playoffs, it comes together as a unit. I think all 6 of Florida's defensemen had at least 2 or 3 goals in the playoffs. They all scored, I think, in the Eastern Conference Final and in the final. Not all of them in each, but whatever, as a collective, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. But, like, all that production, like, you don't look for, like, Nate Schmidt to score a goal or to put up a ton of points. But, like, as if they play solidified as a team with that structure, the production comes from everywhere. And then, yeah, certain players like Fox, who's amazing, obviously, IQ and all that cerebrally, he's obviously going to do a lot better than Vakanainen. There's no question. But what I'm saying is, like, or what Coach Ed is saying is, like, that offensive structure that we're hoping for comes back a little bit, and that team defense is going to be good for everyone. And it shouldn't really matter who they put back there. You see it with Florida and other teams.
All right, Coach, I got a question for you because I know you're a big Braden Schneider guy. Okay, and we've seen Brady Shea.
You look a little bit like Braden Schneider.
You think so? I'll take that as a compliment. He's a handsome young
it's a
fella.
Great jawline.
Yeah, Brady Shea gone. Keandre just walked. If Schneider is on the third
Not
pair
walk,
this year,
kicked out the door by Little Ed and Chris Drury. That's for sure.
yeah.
He didn't walk anywhere. He was thrown to Carolina.
Do you fear that if Schneider is again in that sheltered third pairing role, that in the future he might be in that position where the Rangers would have to deal him?
I mean, they're just going to be holding him back. I'd be shocked if he's not getting more time this year. They said he was injured last year, so hopefully he comes back healthy. I would be shocked. Yeah, it's going to be frustrating because he's proven himself from the day he came up that he's an NHL caliber defenseman. What his potential, I mean, I think he has a lot more potential offensively, not as much as Keandre does skill-wise, but he's a smart player. And like I've talked about in the past, very rarely gets beat, makes the right outlet passes. He's got the complete package. So if he gets the ice time and the confidence, I think he could be right up there, knocking on the door as a first pair, but definitely a second pair D in the league. I don't understand why he wouldn't get that opportunity. He's proven himself for 3.5 years or 2.5 years? It's at least 2 years.
3, I think.
Yeah,
right?
he came up in
3 years,
21,
right?
22.
Yeah, I mean, as a 20-year-old, he came up as a 20-year-old, right? He hasn't made glaring mistakes.
And he's never had a consistent partner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We talked about that a lot. That's very difficult to do. You know, everybody's making that excuse, especially Cousin Ed, that Keandre never had a partner. We never got a chance here and there. Look at Schneider. Schneider's had, I bet you if you looked at all the stats, he's had probably 15 different D partners in 3 years.
Yeah, no, certainly.
That's a lot.
I would guess 15.
And he's still not been kicked out of town or traded or really talked about getting traded. I mean, I said it in our group chat. I mean, I'm sure Drury has had plenty of offers to trade him, and he hasn't.
I know he was supposed to be in the Miller deal, and they denied it.
Yeah, the first one. He was
That's
supposed to
crazy.
trade deadline in 21-22 when Schneider first came up. They wanted him straight up for Miller, and that would have been JT Miller.
Oh, JT. Okay.
Mhm.
I think you meant in this Miller deal with Keandre.
Look,
No.
I go back
No.
to the
Yeah,
same
JT.
thing. I only saw the one clip on that MSG Shorts where he has his own personal hockey coach. They review films of every game. I don't see anything with a player like Keandre Miller doing that. And I'm sorry, at that level, if you're not going to do that, you're not going to get to your potential. And he tries everything he can, and he's got the right attitude. You never hear it.
You got to treat it as a job. I mean, a lot of players around the league treat it as like they're just playing a game, but they get paid. It's a job, and that comes with, like you just said, having a coach, paying a nutritionist, having this, doing that. Like, it's part of like being successful. And then we read or see that Ryan Reeves said that him and Panarin used to drink until 4 a.m. playing basketball in Panarin's backyard in Connecticut on off days. So, you know, it is what it is. We'll move on from that.
No, but I was going to say with just the top.
Yeah, that was bonkers.
Like everyone on Instagram is saying, like in the comments, like, "Oh, that's so funny! Yeah, Panarin's awesome." I'm like, what? Like, that's not a good thing.
I think
guys.
it's a
Like,
bad
what are we
look for
talking
sure.
about?
Obviously, it's hindsight now, but
Yeah.
Rangers PR can't be thrilled after everything that came out last season, not just with him,
No.
but just the team in general. Like, they can't be happy that came out. Like, again, like we're being naive if we don't think these guys don't party. They all do, even the
Of
best.
course.
I mean, they all drink.
I just don't want to hear about it.
Right, exactly.
Well, you also
Until
hear about
after they
like,
win the
Florida.
cup and
You
you're
also hear
Marchand.
about like Florida on their off days. They're all going out to dinner together. They're all doing team bonding thing. Blah blah blah. So depends on how you look at it.
Fair. But I just wanted to put a bow on Schneider real quick. I think that this is, I'm with you, Matt, that we talked about this before too. Like if he is going to get blocked by Borgen and Fox on the right side, you can't just let him rot there. So it's got to be make or break this year. And I'm excited to see if with a new labrum in his shoulder that he played the last 2 seasons with, if he can kind of take that next step because they need him to.
Let's ask this question: who deserved the second pairing before him? Susie doesn't play better than him when he's healthy. When Schneider's healthy, who are you going to put second pair? Who earned it already?
Nobody. I mean, he needs that spot because you're right. Because if
It's his
Susie's
spot,
playing,
in my opinion, he
Miller
earned it.
Miller never earned it. He got it, in my opinion.
but yeah, if Susie's playing second pair minutes, we got problems. I mean, I'm fine with him playing third pair. And honestly, with some of the contracts that went out in free agency, that 3.2 isn't the worst. Neither is Borgen's contract, if we're being honest now. But yeah, Susie and a
I think
Shelton
Borgen's
role
deal
I'm
looks
good
pretty
with.
golden, actually. Yeah, I think
Okay.
the Borgen deal is going to age pretty well, just based on the small sample. We'll see what happens this year.
Yeah, it definitely looks way better today than what it could have been.
Hirsch said, "Wait till he gets an Instagram model girlfriend."
Someone's playing right to Little Ed on that one.
Who's he talking about? Schneider?
Schneider after
Yeah.
Miller, because that was the whole
Schneider's not getting that Instagram model girlfriend. He's getting that nice school teacher. It's going to be nice. He's not
It's gonna
that
be
kind of
nice.
guy.
He's a good boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
He's
my
going to have
God.
the little house with a white picket fence, living the life.
Oh, man. Hopefully with a few cup rings.
I want to go back to this comment by Vitale. It's a good last question to finish.
Wait a
Coach's
minute. You didn't
Corner.
ask me who's the starting goalie.
I was going to, but I didn't want to open yourself up to that.
Oh man.
I don't want to make you sign off, PJ, so I'm going to say it's just Shesterkin.
Thank you. I am. I mean, for all the the crap people get, I just want to say I'm excited to hopefully a better defensive structure. That's just going to amplify his game more. And again, a goalie making $10 million and more of the percentage of the cap than Igor is won a cup back to back. Just saying. But I wanted to bring this.
Is Coach Ed an op on this one? Is he like a John Quick should start 82 games guy?
No.
Not 82 games, but if he beats out, if he's playing better, he should play. That's all I'm saying.
That's fair. All right, that's fair.
That's all I'm saying.
But I wanted to finish off Coach's Corner. Different segue. That I thought this comment by
I'm sorry. Go
Vitale
back
was,
to the question.
yeah, this Vitale question was good. I think we can all finish up on this. That do you think Kreider's loss from the locker room is going to impact this fragile team more than we think?
No, I'll tell you first and foremost, the only reporter Kreider talked to in my time with the Hockey News was Brooks. That was the only one I saw him talk to. Maybe Vince and maybe Staple, but once here or there. Kreider spoke once to the media after a game in a scrum the entire time I was reporting. So
And
no, I don't.
Which season were
I
you
just
there
don't
for?
think
It
he's
was
that guy. That was 23-24.
and that was
So
the
we were
Happy
riding hot.
Vibe season too.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it's funny you say that.
I just don't think he was that guy.
It's funny you say that because Vince mentioned that a couple of times on his podcast that he didn't see Kreider after a game really anytime at all. Period. Like I think because I think the Rangers too blocked him because he's will probably say stuff they don't want him to say with how last season was going. But Coach, your opinion on that?
I mean, if that's the case, I didn't know about that he wasn't talking to the media. I mean, on post games, I kind of remember seeing him all the time, but Last year I didn't watch many post games. I was too disgusted, to be honest. The year before, I kind of remember seeing him being interviewed a lot. So I don't know. He's not that vocal kind of guy to me. I think he's more shy and he just wants to go about his business with his teammates. So do I think it's going to be a loss? I mean, he said LOL at the end of that question. So obviously he was saying it in jest.
Gee.
I don't think it's going to hurt the locker room. I think that's why Sullivan went and visited Mika probably immediately to clear the air and talk to him about it, because obviously it's pretty known that he's buddies with him. I don't think anybody else on the team is really close to him like Mika, so I think that would be the only issue in my opinion. I think Trocheck would get over it and straighten things out. I don't think he's a professional. The other guys are too young to figure that kind of stuff out at this point, I think.
All right, I concur.
I think
Kreider
step up in that role too. I'm sorry, bud. Go ahead.
No, what'd you say?
I think Cooley's ready to step up and take a better role. Third year in.
Go ahead.
I think he's ready. I think he'll do it on the ice.
We said we were going to do our leadership choices. Maybe we'll save it for another episode. But I mean, I ranted about Kreider too. I mean, just the way he carried himself last season leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and I can't imagine he was a treat to be around in the locker room. Probably no one really was last year, I would imagine. But like I said, the biggest thing for me, and I mean, looking back on it, like when he wasn't the choice of captain, it like spoke words, like whatever I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, if he wanted to be captain, or if like they thought he deserved it, they would have given it to him. He was the longest standing Ranger. Trouba comes from Winnipeg out of nowhere. They named him captain. You know what I mean? Like, it would have been Kreider if he was that guy, and he's just not.
Right.
It's time for the fan base to accept it.
Yeah, and from my understanding, I think you guys were talking about this last epi. I think it was the players' vote, which also I think speaks to that group in 21-22. I think we all can concur was pretty special. You know, it seemed like there was a good team bond, and even the additions they had, like obviously Frankie V was a dog, but even locker room wise, it seemed like they had a great chemistry and a history with one another. And they chose Trouba. So I think at the time we were all shocked, but now I think we're seeing why Kreider and Zibanejad weren't really players that the team thought could be those vocal guys, and it doesn't seem like they are. So, I guess true colors came out.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I think it'll be a nice refresh, and maybe with a guy like him out of there, it enables like a Cooley, like Coach said, or someone, the younger guys, to kind of step in. Maybe that would have been too afraid to step up. It kind of just refreshes everything. I think it'll be a good thing.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, well, let's move
on. Out of Coach's Corner here.
Yep. Do you want to?
So now we want to go ahead, move over onto the NHL draft. Maybe we should have saved this to the end, because I don't know if Coach Ed has much to say about the young.
I mean, I could think we are not all big draft experts, but it's worth touching on.
No, for sure. I mean, I'll let you run through this.
Yep. So Rangers had 8 picks, as everyone knows. They gave their first rounder to Pittsburgh. So, and I think a lot of people were expecting Keandre to get traded at the draft, and when he didn't, it was kind of, what are they going to get him for? A lot of talk was, are they going to maybe get a first round pick back for the 25 draft, and kind of that was the reason maybe they were giving it up to Pitt. And all draft experts I read, the Rangers' first pick, number 43, Malcolm Spence, turned out to be essentially a first round pick. So it's like they had one all along. I mean, he was ranked, I saw, anywhere between 12 and 23, 24. They got him at 43. From what I understand, like coming into the draft,
the steal of the second round, or the steal of the draft.
Coming into that last season he had in juniors, he was projected to maybe go top 10, top 12. And then I think he got some sort of mouth infection, like his tongue got split in half or something. He lost 15 pounds from not being able to eat. And I think his production kind of towards the end of the year, stalled a little bit. And I think that's what pushed him down the draft. But I think, with him being fully healthy next year and going to college, I'm excited to see what he can. And from reading his scouting report, he sounds like a Little Ed and Coach Ed favorite. It's a nonstop motor, all over the ice, plays all situations. So could be a fan
Yeah,
favorite for
PJ,
sure.
something I saw was that there was a lot of clearing the air after he was drafted. That initially there was a report that said that like he had like almost a work ethic issue. And then the reports came that, flooding in that it was because of this infection. So it actually was for the first time, I think, a 180 the night of the draft to see like that a player's a weakness labeled for a player was actually like falsified, and it was the complete opposite. So that made me happy for sure, seeing that, it wasn't like they drafted a player that had work ethic issues. We've seen how that goes down in past recent drafts.
Well, all that has to be is one scout saying it one time, and then that
Mhm.
rumor is going to start. I mean, I hope it's the. I would hate to see the Rangers draft a kid like that. So I'd be shocked if they drafted someone who was actually like that. So you got to give them the benefit of the doubt. We'll see.
And for as much shit as the Rangers got from their drafting, and I know that's out there between 2017 and 2019 with all their first rounders that aren't here anymore, but the late rounders, especially under Drury, since he took over and they finally got rid of Gordy Clark and Nick Bobrovov, that's been a way better. And I'm excited to see they got some big defensemen. So they drafted 5 defensemen out of the 8 picks and some big guys that can move. So there's definitely, it's nice to refill the pipeline after giving up some picks. And we'll get into the Keandre thing too, but they, got some picks for next year too. So they're setting themselves up with some assets for sure.
Yeah, I don't think they had a bad draft overall, considering where they were coming in, the situation with the Pittsburgh trade-off, and then the fact that, like you said, they kind of also stocked the cupboard on their selections in upcoming drafts. So I think it leaves them in at least for the fan base, like a good position where you don't feel like the cupboard's drained out and they might not make the playoffs next year. It's a situation where with the major question mark that is the 25-26 season, at least they had a pretty good draft, all things considered. And, obviously moving forward, it doesn't look like they're going to be in a bad spot to either have trade deadline capital or picks to choose.
So from what I'm hearing too, I was going to ask you if you're pleased with their decision to give the pick to Pitt this year.
I still think it's a gamble. Like, at the end of the day, if next season rolls around and Pittsburgh gets into the lottery for a player like McKenna, or just in this draft alone next year, they're one of the top 3 picks. It does feel like you're giving a team that you don't want to see get a top 3 pick in what should be a very good draft. But I also think you're kind of hedging your bets that by March 2026, you're planning on trading that pick to acquire something to boost the team for a playoff run. And I think that's a good position to be in, where it does feel like you can play both cards and you can get a high draft pick. You also have the first that you received in the Miller trade, and you can also use it as a trade chip. So I do like that flexibility with that pick.
Yep, I'm spot on.
Interesting.
I don't know how you guys feel though.
I mean, everything was pointed that I don't pay as close attention as you guys, but it was all pointing that this was a relatively weak draft.
Mm-hmm.
So
Correct.
to me, the gamble was a little better. They got the first for Keandre. So next year they're going to have 2, you're telling me? So then you're in a better position. Like Matt said, you could trade one of them if we need to, or you just have 2 firsts next year. And we got a bunch of young guys still percolating. So you don't really have, you could also have too much. So it's a good gamble to me.
Also, the
If
other
this
thing,
kid
Coach
pans
Ed,
out in the second round, especially.
I want to hear your thoughts. This draft had a few centers go in that first round, which I think, obviously, from your perspective behind the bench, how important the center is. Do you feel like they missed on the opportunity to take a center, even if it was a weaker draft?
I mean, it's possible, but you got to. I don't know. I always put trust in these guys. I mean, they got to be paying attention. If we're paying attention to that, they have to be paying attention to that. They have to have some kind of plan. And like we just said, they got 2 first rounders next year, so maybe they could pick 2 centers next year that are very close. You know what I'm saying? So they already have
Mhm.
Trocheck locked up. Miller's there for a couple more years. You know, you have guys. Mika's got how many more years too?
Does Perot play center?
5, Coach.
Rose a winger.
All right,
Yeah,
so you
Mika's
got
on the
guys
book for
locked up.
5.
But they did, not that they're going to be anything like a top 6 dynamo center, but they did get that Kerry Terrance in the back from Kreider. That's a
Mhm.
center. And it sounds like the kid, from what I briefly read in the 4th round, they got the Norway kid, Eriksson, apparently has some big upside. They took a big swing on him. Like if he hits, that's going to look like a big time steal. But, I see what you're saying, Matt. From what I understand, I think like there were a lot of centers, but apparently I think they were going to go all top 10. And
Mhm.
unless Drury could have traded up, which it sounded like he tried to do with Miller, from what the
Yes.
reports said. And I think when that didn't materialize, he was kind of like, you know what? I'm not going to get who I want to get.
I
I'm
don't
gonna
I
settle.
don't understand. You're telling me we couldn't get a top 10 pick for Miller in this year's draft, but Carolina pays him $8 million a year.
Different
You
teams
know what?
value
That's
different
a very
things.
valuable point. I understand what you're saying because he's now
All
the
I
highest
heard was
paid
you guys
defenseman on his team.
texting. All I heard was the reports you guys were sending. There's no offers for him. There's this, there's that, blah. And Carolina gives up a first and pays him $8 million a year for how many years? 5 years, 6 years,
8.
7.
8 years.
8 years,
It was
yeah.
8, was it?
7.5.
Yeah.
That's a freaking big gamble, man.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that.
I don't know. Those numbers that equation doesn't add up to me. Brendan Moore must see something that we don't. Maybe he's an NHL coach, but
Yeah.
he hasn't won yet.
Well, it's
We're
like,
already on the We're already on the subject. We might as well just talk about.
Well, I
Miller
got to
now
get on
while
the
Chris is
subject
still here
before I
anyway.
leave. So
all right,
Yeah.
we'll do Miller now.
Well, want to put a ball on the draft? Are we all done with the draft talk? Matt, you got anything to add? I mean, you did a great job breaking that down.
I thought this draft overall was pretty, it seemed like a weaker draft. The Rangers, although I think they did well, I don't think it was a draft that, if something comes from it, great. But I don't know, PJ. It doesn't seem like any of the players that were drafted are like these highly touted prospects.
No, I mean, other than like Spence will be. I don't know if Spence is going to be like a first winger, like 50 goal guy. But I think Spence could be a top 6 guy potentially. So he's definitely a guy that could be a winner for them. But yeah, other than that, yeah, they're all dart throws. I mean, no one really knows. I mean, I remember when Cooley got drafted, the talk at the time was, oh, he can't skate. He could have a good shot. They drafted him too high. I can't believe they traded him for traded a second round, got a second rounder and wasted on him. That was the reports at the time. I remember reading that stuff on draft day. And then look what happened. So you never know. Really.
Of course you don't, but that's why I think they go for this. That's why I'd be surprised if this kid isn't a good character player. Because that seems to be what I feel Drury's been drafting pretty good at in the later rounds, is getting these guys like, I don't know who drafted Edstrom, but a guy like Edstrom, he's in there playing. A guy like Cooley, obviously. These guys are all, you got to get guys that are willing to put in the off-season time and the off-ice time. It's a tough gamble, but I think I'd rather have those guys personally. So
it seems like that's kind of been his drafting style. Character, hardworking, tenacious guys. It seems that that's where he's been drafting guys lately, if you look at their traits. So we'll see if it comes to fruition. But yeah, we'll move on. We'll do Miller before Coach leaves, and we'll backtrack and go through free agency. So Keandre Miller, Little Ed was fired up. We knew it was going to probably happen, but I don't know about you guys. I was getting nervous that Drury was losing leverage because he didn't get traded on draft night. Everyone and their mother knew the Rangers were signing Gavrikov. And then all of a sudden, they're like, if they sign Gavrikov, unless they make other moves, they can't really fit Miller. And if you do, you're signed to a 1-year deal in arbitration probably. You're bringing another unhappy guy back in. And I was like, you don't want to just give Miller away. So you're in a tough spot. And boy, did Drury pull a rabbit out of a hat. And, I remember when the report came out that it was Carolina, I was like, he better nail this trade because it's risky trading in division. So, he gets the conditional first rounder, and I'll just read the conditions just in case you didn't hear it, Coach.
I think that makes him smarter than he looks, trading him to Carolina.
It's almost like diabolical. Like, I don't care about you at all. You can go in the division for all I care. But
that was the biggest thing for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Condition on the first. So they'll get the higher of Carolina's own pick and the pick they got from Dallas. But it is top 10 protected. So if either one of those picks is in the top 10, they'll get the second pick. If both are in the top 10, which there's no way in hell, then they get the unprotected 2027 first. And then they also get a second rounder in 2026, and then Scott Morrow, who we'll get into. So nailed it for me. Coach, you want to start?
I mean, I pretty much went through a little bit of a rant. Anybody who listens knows he was in the doghouse most of his career for me. So I don't see it as being a big loss. I just feel that it opens up the door for Schneider, who I think deserves it. And that's how I look at it.
Little Ed, your time to shine.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing you already touched on is like Drury had zero hesitation, unless he truly had no other offers. He had zero hesitation sending this guy who's supposed to be the next coming of Victor Hedman, like Cousin Ed always says. And, he had no problem sending him to Carolina, who, if the Rangers are getting anywhere in the playoffs, they have to go through Carolina, we would assume, right? So it kind of just proves what Coach Ed and I have been saying, where like this guy who's supposed to be this offensive threat, this defensive, this physical guy throwing his big body around, all this stuff, like it just never happened. And it shows that like Drury has no worry at all about his forwards or the Rangers forwards being successful against a guy like that in the playoffs. And to me, I have to agree. Unless he decides to all of a sudden play like a monster, dump the puck in that guy's corner all night. He's a disaster. He has no idea where he's going to be on the ice. His defensive awareness. All I hear about, he's going to excel in Rod Brindamore's system. What is it? Chasing pucks around the defensive zone? I don't know. Like, to me, it's like I don't care how good his footwork is and how good of a skater he is. If you have zero defensive awareness or defensive instinct, it's never going to work, and I'm shocked. Like Coach had said before, I'm shocked a guy like Rod Brindamore, we saw the clip on Instagram, he wants a guy like K'Andre. I don't know what he sees in him. Maybe I'm eating my words in a few months. God hope I am not. But for 7.5 for whatever he signed for that many years later, that's crazy. It's just crazy. It's like,
look, Brady Shea
said it on a pod. If I had his body, God, where I would be right now.
Brady Shea had how many goals with the Rangers? He put up some numbers with the Rangers, right?
I don't think he got
his first season was his best, I believe.
He had some decent numbers offensively. I thought he was a good player. I know a lot of people didn't like him. He went to Brindamore. Now he gets 20 goals, 18 goals. He's up there offensively. So, yeah, a guy like Brady Shea, who in New York showed some decent offensive ability, excelled there. But K'Andre showed to me zero. So maybe they see something. But to me, it all comes down to playoffs. And that's where Shea tails off. Guys could play 82 games and excel. Come playoff time, we obviously have seen it for the last few years. It's a different
animal. When the going gets tough, man. Yeah, when the going gets tough. And this league is taking a big turn. I mean, yeah, he could keep up footwork-wise, but we keep bringing up Florida, but they're the gold standard right now. That defense, you don't want to go into a corner with one of those guys. Any of them, 1 through 6, 1 through 7, probably. You just don't. To me, I'm dumping in K'Andre's corner all night and exposing him. You just don't. You can't do that to any of the guys on Florida or really Vegas. The list goes on. It's a different animal, and I just can't see it. There's a lot of guys I could picture that I could see the potential, but you don't just snap out of it overnight and all of a sudden you're a beast. Like it's either in you or it's not. To me, I don't know.
Matt?
Yeah, I think to add on that, hockey IQ, I think, is the knock on Miller. And I just think, you know, every hockey fan, coach, player, former player knows that, like you just said, it doesn't happen overnight. Now, this is a player, like you said, physique wise, massive wingspan, active stick. His top speed burst, 23 miles an hour for defenseman, 94th percentile in the NHL, right? Like he hits all those markers. We've seen what he can do, we see what he's capable of. And as we mentioned, when your system is working and you have the forwards launching out of the zone and you have guys to hit on that exit pass and it's not this confusion like we saw with New York this year, he probably will have more success in that system. Where I think he'll struggle is where we see the flaws and where we've seen the flaws, right? It felt the same way with Brady Shea, where it was like, yes, he got paid and now he's struggling a little bit. And he
Urgency.
goes to
That was the
Carolina.
word I was
Yeah,
looking
he's doing
for.
all right, but he's playing the same way that we saw him play. And I think that's what we're going to see from Miller. He may play better, but the same. I just don't see that IQ changing and shifting overnight. Like, I think what we see is what they're going to get. And even if that's an amplified version, I don't think it's a better version or a player that, is going to just change. Now, something to add too is he'll be playing with Jacob Slavin, so that's going to be a massive anchor for him in a good way. A player that he can play off of, and
That might
I'd
hurt
argue the best
Slavin, though.
defensive
Yeah, I was going to
defense in the
say
NHL.
an anchor in a negative way for Slavin, but
Yeah, it could certainly be. But I sit comfortably on the fence. Like I can also see where, if you're Drury and like you said, coach, if you're going to trade this guy in division, you have to, and as you said, Little Ed, like all day in that corner, all day. But at the same time, if he does start to excel, you think to yourself, well, like, yeah, we have some draft capital in return, but you lost a player that under a new regime maybe could have been a better player. But also at the same time, PJ, I want to add one last thing before we go to your opinion here. I felt like it was a disaster waiting to happen too, because his 22-23 year was pretty good. That 24 playoff, it was like, when you see a little kid and everyone's sledding and you see the sled and it's about to hit the little kid and you're like, oh no, that's what it felt like. 24 playoffs, it was like the worst time for a contract year to be coming up because now you only have 82 games to prove your worth, which is an extremely small window. So, especially if you wanted a mega contract, which he was looking for, and it sounded like the Rangers did offer him short term, like a 2-year, but we knew he wasn't taking that. So, yeah, I think IQ is the major factor with, his game not excelling to the next level. But I also see, tools, right system, maybe they're able to get through and with a partner like Slavin really bring his offensive game out there.
I understand. I'm kind of sick and tired of hearing like he's got to play in the right system. You mean to tell I watched him play in the Rangers, and yeah, you could tell me it wasn't a great system. Whatever the system is, who the hell knows? I saw him more than once a game skate up to the offensive blue line, make everybody stop, and then dump it in.
Or lose control of the puck completely. Or lose control of the puck completely.
IQ. That's stuff that kids do in like squirt level.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I don't understand what system Brind'Amour is going to have that's going to change that. Like I said, I don't hate the guy as a person. I just feel that everybody wanted him to make it. And they gave him all kinds of chances that other guys deserved over him. And he didn't do it. He didn't do it. You can give me every stat, every analytic you want when he played with Fox. He didn't excel with Fox. He excelled because of Fox. No, I'm not saying you, Matt. I'm talking in general.
Oh, no, I understand. And if you are, I'm open to it. I think Miller is the definition. When he was drafted, this is what we were told. He is an athlete that's playing hockey. I don't think he's a hockey player that is excelling as an athlete.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you guys
Yeah.
all nailed it. I mean, I think too.
Put it on a
You're-
shirt.
When you were spot on though, Matt, like his season.
I like
and
that comment that was just up.
Yeah,
Sharm and Rich
and
Shotgun.
Vitale. Yeah, that was a good one. That was. I feel like Woodalek couldn't write it better himself.
Vitale, Coach Ed's going to use that one for Stony Brook this year. So
Be up
I
in the
feel
locker
bad.
room.
I feel bad for our defensemen hitting shin guards this season.
Oh boy.
I was going to say about Keandre contract year, like that's when you think like, all right, you're going to get paid, especially a guy that really wanted to get paid. We heard reports that he really wanted to go to free agency and get a big deal. You would have thought last year would have been the year he excelled. And I mean, I was admittedly the one who said, yeah, I'd like to see him maybe one more year with Sullivan to see if he can rebound. But, you know, if you think about it too, the more I thought about it afterwards, it's not just like he had one bad season with everybody last year, right? It was 2 seasons in a row he regressed. That's not a good sign. And, you know, I look at this trade as a risk for both teams. If he does get back to where he was in 22-23 or take a bigger step than that, you know, it's definitely not going to look great for the Rangers unless they nail those picks and Morrow does well. But it's also a big risk for Carolina 2 ways. One, if Miller doesn't bounce back to where he was, or even just gets back to where he was, $7.5 million is a lot. And 2, if Morrow is anything like you read about him, where his potential is, I mean, he could be a home run and really be just as much of a difference maker, if not more, to the Rangers than Keandre ever was.
Well, there you go.
Not
So you're
out of
trading potential for potential. That's a good.
Well, and you're getting a guy that's
And
3
you're getting
years
the
younger
pick.
than Keandre and only making, you know, 900,000 or whatnot. So I'm excited. For me, when the reports first came out, it was a weird day, right? Like we heard he was traded. It took a while to figure out what was going to return. Then we heard it was maybe picks. I don't know about anybody else. I know Little Ed and Coach were excited to see him gone. They would have traded him for pucks. But for me, if they would have just traded him for picks, I would have lost some excitement out of it, because how does that help you right now? You get worse in the aggregate. But when they got Morrow, all of a sudden I got excited again, because it was like they traded Keandre for Gavrikov, Morrow, and 2 picks. You can really how can you not look at it as that way? So they added
That's
2
how I
different
look at it.
defensemen, and Gavrikov's making $500,000 less a season.
That's crazy. What's going on?
What happened?
I mean,
there?
listen. Thank you, God, that Carolina's making this mistake. But like, once again, that just shows that Drury was like, okay, go ahead. Like,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I'm not giving him $8 million for 8 years. But what was the deal there? Was they signed him first, then traded him? Who? I don't understand that.
Yeah.
So they did that so that he could get the 8th year. So in the former, now there's going to be a new collective bargaining agreement. We saw that come out, I think yesterday, 2 days ago. Before that, it was 7 years if you're a free agent and you're signing with another team, 8 years if you're signing with your club. So the Rangers did that so that he could get that 8th year when he's playing with Carolina. If you trade that contract, they have to honor the 8 years.
Vegas
So
did
Carolina
the same thing.
wanted that.
Yeah, well,
Carolina
they agreed to it. I don't know
wanted
if they wanted
Carolina
it, but
wanted
they agreed
that.
to it.
True. They
But to
they
me,
agreed
that
to
like
trade for
Well,
that.
I'm a GM
They
anyway.
think it's going to be good value in 7 or 8 years when he's going to sign his next contract. I mean, that's crazy.
Mike,
Obviously,
But if
we
I'm the
just said.
general managers in the league, I'm like, you just ruined the market. Because
Well,
now every
did
defense
the
is going to
same
be
thing
like,
with Vegas
if
and
Keandre
Toronto.
$8 million for 8 years, I want this.
Well,
You got
that was
no
all.
leverage.
We'll get to free agency after this, but that's
Mhm.
basically with the cap going up. It skews a lot of
Yeah.
the contracts that we're used to hearing. You know, it
Mhm.
definitely is an overpay for Keandre right now. Obviously, if he hits, then it's not. It's the risk you take. But with the cap going up, it's different. It's just like the Igor contract. Everyone hears, "Oh my God, $11.5 million, it's so much money," but it's really not, because we were so used to, with COVID, the cap not really changing. So now the cap's going up. The cap's going up $8.5 million next year, and it's going up another 8 or 9 after that. I mean, it's going to be silly how big this cap is going to be. So, you know, even if Gavrikov, I know initially we'll get to him, was going to get 8, it seems like a lot, but it's really not when you look at the percentage of the cap, and that's how we kind of have to look at these contracts now.
Yeah, the
All right,
flat
fellas,
cap
I'm
was
sorry.
killer.
I got to run. Matt, great to meet you online on the show.
Great to meet you,
Thanks
Coach.
for your help.
Love you,
Love
Coach.
you, fellas. Let's go.
Love you,
Let's
Coach.
go. Let's keep it going.
Yes, sir. Be safe tonight. Coach had to leave us. He's working at, I guess I'm not really allowed to say where he's working technically, but he has to work an overnight shift in construction somewhere. So thanks to Coach. And yeah, just the three of us now. So any final words on Keandre? I know Coach kind of cut you off there, Matt. Sorry.
No problem. He was leaving. It was great to meet him. Miller overall, the I think we covered most of the ground, but I also think it's going to be important to factor in. He had surgery, so how is that going to affect how he starts off in Carolina? The other thing I
What do you have
wanted to
surgery? I
mention,
didn't hear that.
I
didn't see that.
believe he had surgery this offseason.
You're right. They never really specified what it was. It wasn't like Schneider where he's been playing like this for a while. Apparently, it was something late in the season, so it wasn't. He can't bank that as an excuse for his year last year. So
Yeah. But the second thing, which I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts, right? This is a team in division. And we talked about what that could mean for the Rangers aspect, maybe a little bit for Carolina too. But what I thought initially was this is a player that Carolina would want. They signed Nikolai Ehlers. To me, do these players really move the needle? I think they're the same exact players that they have. I think Svechnikov is the only one that differs from the rest because he's like a power forward. The rest are speed. They have some grit they can hang in, but I don't think of Aho as a game breaker. I never thought of Keandre Miller as a game breaker. I never thought of Nikolai Ehlers as a game breaker. They're all speed. So I actually do think he fits exactly the bill they're looking for, but I just don't think he moves the needle for them.
yeah, I think the word we're looking for here is they're different. Like, the same but different. Like they have different guys in, but
Mhm.
you're right. It's is the Ehlers any better than when they had Gensel? Is he any better than when they had Rantanen? No. I mean, like they're going to be pesky and annoying, and we see this every season. They're an unbelievable regular season team because they play the same way all 82 games. And in the regular season, not every team is up to fight and play the way they play. It's a pain in the ass, especially if you're on a back-to-back or you're in a 4 and 6 night stretch. It's so hard to play them because they're just balls of the wall. But in the playoffs, when the teams are matching that intensity, that's why you see them get beat because, they're on an even playing field as far as energy and stuff. But yeah, I mean, they won't scare me till they scare me. They don't have a second line center still.
Mhm.
And Freddie Anderson, no, they don't have a goalie either. So without
we're not
that,
going to give up on that.
yeah, without those two things, how are they? They're not beating Florida. They're not beating Tampa as of now. And
Honestly, well, I mean, they had a good playoff last year, but I feel like last year's Rangers team can beat them in a 7-game series.
They
they
got
just
railroaded by Florida.
they just don't have any of those we say again game breakers to me. Like even Aho, I've been saying all night, these guys get tossed around. Like against a team like Florida with big mean defensemen. Like I was listening to I give Chicos a shout out all the time, but that stupid friggin' Pasha, the Devils fan, trying to say that Jack Hughes is putting on size. I'm like, where? What do you these guys get tossed around. Like if you don't put on a little bit of size, you have to be lightning fast. And even at that point, the guys that are lightning fast are big too. It's like you can't. There's no room for small guys. I feel like in this league anymore, at least to be successful in the playoffs. We'll see what Marner can do with Vegas, but even a guy like him, I think when the going gets tough, it's hard to like we say go into the corners against these guys.
Yeah, and Vegas has some trees in the back end. They don't have bushes back. They got some tall guys on their back end. So I'm sure that helps the forwards a lot.
Yeah.
And to finish the Carolina stuff off and tie a bow with Miller, I'm curious to see how he does there. I mean, I think his speed and his skating will help. But from what I understand, they play a very, very strict man-to-man. And we saw Miller struggle hard.
I heard that too.
Which
I heard that too.
Which is interesting.
Playing man-to-man, you have to have a lot of instinct. You have to kind of predict where that guy's going to go.
Right.
And, like I said, I don't care how fast his foot speed is. You can't keep up with these guys. You can't. Like,
Yeah,
you see a guy like Barkov, who's not really the fastest guy, just outwork people down low and just find open space no matter what. It's a completely different animal. I know I bring up Florida a lot. I wish I was a Florida fan. I think that might be it.
We know. You should have seen the group chat during the
Panthers Ed podcast.
You were getting cousin Ed was having a conniption because he despises Florida from living down there. He lives in Miami, Matt, and we're outside of Miami. And little Ed was just gassing up Florida the whole series.
It's hard. It's hard not to, because like I always say, like I wish the Rangers play like that, and I've been meaning to put another video on. Like, I think Florida winning again is good for us as fans because it brings the hockey to another level. Because now every team is going to try to mimic Florida's recipe, and it just increases all the competition for us to watch. So that's the big thing for me, is like that's how I want hockey to be played. I think that's what it was meant to be played like. So having them win and be successful, I think that's good for the league. That's my hot take.
St. Louis, when they won the cup, that was incredible, an incredible run. But no one looked at St. Louis and said, okay, we need to build our team like that. I think this is the first time.
Well, they came out of nowhere.
Yeah, and Florida, the way, like, they are Phelps in the Olympic pool. They're a full lap ahead of the rest of the league. The fact Edmonton couldn't really even hang with them at the end of the series this year. Like, and listen, two best players in the world, we could argue. I don't think their team is built well. They have no goaltending, never address it. But at the end of the day, they even made the two best players in the world look pretty silly by the end of the series. So I think you're right. I love the way that they're forcing the league to play. And with the cap going up, you're seeing that teams are trying to build teams to go through Florida because they are the litmus. They are the bar.
Yeah, and it's forcing teams to build sustainable teams. It's not like just like a one and done. Like, no, you're trying to compete for years and years. Like, I know like they kind of circumvented the cap a little bit with some of these contracts, but like knock knock, everyone else can do the same thing. I think Drury kind of did the same thing. Might as well. Why don't we just segue into the free agency right now?
I was going to say quick on the Florida thing.
Before we wrap up.
I just want to quickly say, what's the butterfly effect, though? Remember 2 seasons ago when they played Boston, who was the best regular season team of all time? Boston was up 3-1 in that series in complete control. I remember there was game 4 or 5. Marchand had a breakaway with less than a minute left in regulation. Could have ended them right there. If Florida loses in 5 and they don't go on the miraculous run to the final there, they lose. Do they gain that confidence? Are they the team we see now?
They might not blow up the team, but they look for changes.
Right.
Sure.
I mean, it's
just
crazy.
like any other team.
That run gave them confidence for the next year, which taught them what they needed, and they won. And then they had oozes confidence, like and Vitali just said. It's just crazy that can change. And I said this on the previous pod. That damn Rangers series against them, Florida outplayed them, but man, those games are freaking close. A goal in one of those games differently, I'm telling you.
That's why last season was that much more disappointing, because they were that close. Right. And us as fans, we know that the pieces were there. I mean, now there's been some changes, but there were pieces there, and that was the biggest disappointment. Is like I said about Kreider, like, what happened, dude? Like, your friend got traded, like. Oh, I'm sorry. Can we move on now and put another 50 goals in the net, or should we just whine about it all season? It's like it's crazy. I mean, we've ranted about this stuff. Let's move on to free agency.
Oh, yeah, one last.
Like I was saying before.
Last thing, but Chris, I forgot about this point though. The last game of the season, Pittsburgh lost to Chicago at home. All the Pittsburgh had said to win that game, they would have made the playoffs, and Florida backed in. Another interesting butterfly effect.
Florida finished 3rd in the division this year. They didn't even dominate the regular season, but they know they don't need to.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely, it's about.
They have no problem with a wild card spot or not winning the Atlantic. They have no problem with that. They're just eyeing the big prize.
You could argue they were playing better on the road too, for the most part.
They were. They were the best road team in the playoffs, I think.
Yep.
other
All
than
right, we'll move on to
Winnipeg.
free agency.
Yeah. So what I was saying before is like Chris Drury. I mean, yeah, it was still like a pretty team friendly deal, but like he might have tacked on that extra year for Gavrikov, like extended him a little bit, give him that extra year of security. I mean, I know that's the big thing for these guys. I mean, it's a physical sport. God forbid you get hurt, especially a player like Gavrikov who plays physical and block shots and stuff like that. You want that extra year of security. So listen, if it's legal, if you're allowed to do it, why not? I mean, if they want to sign Brad Marchand until he's 42, it is what it is. Like that's just how it works. And everyone keeps saying the percentage of the cap. When Brad Marchand's 42, he doesn't even have to play. Then they'll be fine. Like it doesn't matter. So, like I said, if it's legal, go for it. Why not? I mean, and you just got to pray that they don't turn out like Zibanejad.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that. Like, it is shocking to me to see and this is going back to the Miller, but getting to Gavrikov, like that they committed so much to Miller because we've seen how hard it is to move deals, and I think the Gavrikov deal, even though it's a few pennies off the final cost, the fact that Panarin was able to be a part of the negotiation or really the, marketing tactic to get him from LA to New York, but not only that, the fact that he left some money on the table because he wanted to be a New York Ranger, I think that speaks volumes about where the organization has bounced back since the Goodrow cut and trade to San Jose. I think I'm sure you guys have felt the same way reading everything, like all the inside reports, but the fact that the Kreider trade went over well, he said that the team, his agent, everybody worked together on something that was comfortable for a no trade list team to be where he ended up. And then this Gavrikov move, I think that restored a lot of faith in where I felt the ship was sailing.
Then Keandre's agent just said that today. He was interviewed on Puckpedia's podcast that Drury was really helpful and going above board to make sure everything went through and they kept him on the process. So it's almost like a complete 180, from Drury last year, everything you heard. And Keandre's agent is Goodrow's agent. So for Goodrow's agent to say that this time, very interesting, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think it's just the whole Goodrow thing was just overblown. I mean, if you go back to our episodes, Coach Ed and I were saying that it was going to be a big loss, but everyone's just got to move on. And see, the agent was able to move on. It's not like he's never going to work with Chris Drury again. Right. And shout out to Hockey Night. Yeah, shout out to Hockey Night in New York, our buddy Sean over at the Islanders podcast. But he was like, "Oh, it looks like free agents aren't going to want to come to New York anymore." It's like, dude, you don't want to live in New York City and play for a first-class organization. What are we talking about here? Where your cars are paid for, your suits are come on, everyone's going to always want to sign with the Rangers. And you know what? You gotta perform. Just like you, Matt, or me, or anyone. If you don't perform at work, you get shipped out. That's it, So I joke around about Zibanejad. Obviously, his contract is literally impossible to move, but the problem goes away if you just perform, or at least show some effort that you're trying
to solve a Zibanejad problem, or the situation we saw. PJ said this earlier, flipping. The Miller move to me was more of this indirect trade for Gavrikov. You used the money for Miller and signed a defensive defenseman, and that seemed to be the way the organization was going about most things. But sometimes solving things, just trying to solve things and give it a breath works. And I think of all the players, unfortunately, with Zibanejad's deal, that was the one that seemed impossible to move. The Goodrow move, you could see. Kreider, I think we saw kind of coming down the pike. But yeah, I think the Gavrikov move, it took a day that could have been a disaster, in a year that was a disaster, into something that, everyone could look at and feel pretty good about at the end of the day.
Yeah, I was going to say the Gavrikov stuff. I mean, it was hard not to get nervous the day before when Provorov signs for $8.5 million. I can't get over that contract. And then I was watching the free agency show while I was working, and they're like, "Oh, all insiders, every one of them." Man, it just shows how shitty they are. Really, most of them. oh, everyone, he's going to get paid more than Provorov. We could be seeing maybe double digits. Who knows? And then it comes out he's making 7. So that right away was like amazing. And like you guys said, he wanted to be here. I mean, a couple of comments in here, Ali saying Kings tried up and even that morning, they were pushing to get him re-signed. And you could see they panicked. They had no plan B when he didn't sign the contracts they gave out afterwards. And Chris brought it up. Igor too. He played with Igor in the KHL. And the good news about the Gavrikov talking about getting out of contracts, if shit does hit the fan, thankfully in the last 2 seasons after year 5, he's got the no move becomes a no trade. So he is movable. And at that point too, 5 years down the road, they're signing him for these next 3-4 years when he's going to be really at his peak. We'll worry about 5 years. Drury might not even be here if shit goes wrong at that point anyway. But reality though is Gavrikov, really wanted to be here and shows, what they want. They want that stability on the back end for once. I think with K'Andre might have a higher ceiling, but Gavrikov has that higher floor where you're going to get every day. They need that boring guy that's going to sit back there and just eliminate. And I can't wait to see Fox thrive with him. And I heard a good point. I wish I could shout this person out, that Gavrikov really doesn't have a ton of miles on him. If you look at his career, he's only had, when you consider we came in kind of during the COVID seasons early on, he didn't play that many games and that many playoff games until he became, a king in the last couple of years. So it's not like a guy like Girardi and these guys that got the shit kicked out of them and were eating shots for year after year after year. This guy's still pretty fresh. And, that's exciting. And watching, what he does, I mean, he can skate, do everything we want. And I can't wait to have a guy like that finally. And I know, I have to bring up analytics a little bit because a lot of people would say
Coach Ed's not here, PJ. Don't worry.
No. And I mean, I'm not all analytics, even though as much as I talk about it, is that did he get propped up in that LA system because they were the best defensive team in the league? But he played the most minutes, the toughest matchups. And then if you go back and look, what's that?
Is it him? Is that because of him now?
Right. He's doing, like, it's not like he's sitting, in the bottom pair and getting sheltered. He's playing against the top guys every night and still putting up those. I mean, it was the best and, one of the best defensemen in the whole league. And then if you go back and look when he was on a crappy team in Columbus.
I had to.
He knows how to get under my skin. I mean, look at his analytics to the 3-year window in Columbus. They were still pretty good for a bad team. So it shows that despite him not being on a great team, he's still putting up pretty good numbers overall. And that shows, really well. Everything's lining up, not just what you see on the ice. Under the line numbers are looking good too.
Yeah. In case I forget later, which I usually don't, I just want to thank the chat. You guys have been great tonight, giving us a lot of questions, comments, everything. So, but this is a good question, and I just want to knock on wood right now. When Gavrikov, Shesterkin, and Panarin are carpooling to Brighton Beach this summer, which is a huge Russian community in New York, let's hope they don't get into a car accident like what happened to Bushnevich back in the day.
And that wasn't their fault.
So let's all knock on wood right now. Sorry for putting it into the universe, but I had to.
Do you remember that day? It was trade deadline day. And there was like a weird rumor. Some random guy posted it on Twitter. And everyone was like, there's no freaking way this is true. And then they held a press conference and I couldn't.
It was probably the guy who got into the accident with them.
That or a cop or somebody came in, but
there has been no shortage of drama on Broadway since then. I mean, that day was like, first of all, I always laugh. I've been joking around lately, like JD and Gordon, they would like talk to like they were sending letters out. They were having a press conference like there's a car accident. Oh, we also signed Chris Kreider. We don't see any of that now. It's like we're hearing like 7 hours after a deal happens that a deal's happening. It's so funny. Like just the juxtaposition of what we've and just the situations that have come up to. I mean, you can't make up some of the stuff off ice and like the car accident this past season alone. So I do think like the Gavrikov signing was steady on paper, and it was also like steady where it didn't feel like this mega disaster that we saw the last 2 off seasons and really 2 seasons.
Well, yeah, what I was going to say too is like, let's hope it influences in a positive way where what we were just saying that Gavrikov on the open market or from LA could have gotten a much better offer. He left money on the table and wanted to come play in New York. Panarin, if you want to stick around with your Russian buddies, you got to do the same thing so you can keep going down to Brighton Beach and enjoying the nice sunrise, So Panarin, team-friendly deal, like I said, setting the tone. I mean, we just saw Tavares do the same thing in Toronto. I mean, another thing that Florida is doing where it's like you're setting the right example. If you want to win, you got to do these types of things. Panarin's made enough money. If he wants to win, if he wants to be successful, he's got to surround himself with these types of players. And in order to do so, you got to take a little bit of a pay cut, and hope Dolan is giving you something on the side. No worries there. So
I'm going to say on Panarin that, if he does end up staying, it's got to be cheap. I think he will. I mean, he's going to be 34, 35 towards the end of this. But I think I said this in the chat. Regardless of what you think of him, they can't rush to re-sign him yet. For me, I need to wait until where they're at the deadline, because if shit hits the fan again this season, he's probably the best trade deadline piece you can have. Mm-hmm. They can get a haul. Or if he doesn't, for some reason he takes a downward turn or he's not a fit under Sullivan, all those things, you don't want to lock yourself in, because next offseason, while it might not look like the guys we want might be available now, you still want that flexibility to see what's available. And then you can kind of reassess from there.
I agree.
And I also think, Panarin, like, you got to go 70% of his current deal. Like, if it's anything north of like 7, 8, I think that's tough territory. But the good thing, PJ, we've been talking about it all up. So this is the time. Free agency next season. Playing 4D chess, like that's why I think that Borgen deal, the Gavrikov deal, can look good. As long as you said, like they perform well, those deals will look great, because the cap, it will go up as long as there's no unprecedented pandemic. You know what I mean? Like we were promised that literally the 2020 offseason, and then got snubbed to a flat cap for 5 years. So, I think they're. Let's see what it say.
Say it louder for the people in the back, Chris.
Yeah, there you go. And listen, Matt Tkachuk, I mean, what a gem.
For the audio listeners, Chris, our active chatter, do what Florida did with their 115-point player that didn't get it done in the playoffs. Ship him out. I wish Coach Ed was still here. He's been saying it for years that the Rangers will never win with him in the line.
The trade for him now, I doubt it happens because he's got the full no move. But that trade right now that Chris is referencing is for Jason Robertson. You're bringing a younger version, a winger. He's only 25. He's really established like Tkachuk was at the time. And I don't want to hear about his skating, because Tkachuk's one of the worst skaters in the league. Now, Robertson isn't as nasty as he is. But it's just, if you're talking about changing up a culture, that's the trade. That's the version of it. Brady Tkachuk, but Ottawa's not trading him. Robertson's legit available. So
but what kind of culture change is Robertson bringing? I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, I know I know Matthew Tkachuk's don't grow on trees. I mean, obviously the always is a wish that the Rangers are going to get Brady, but like, to me, that doesn't really move the needle to me as a culture change.
Well, I don't know if it's more of a him bringing the culture change, just bringing Panarin out, and then you're changing up the core, and it becomes other people's core now. It's JT Miller stepping up more. It's Cooley pulling up more. It's more him out.
Do you already have that player in the lineup, and just by giving him more time, he takes another step, he becomes that factor for you? Like Will Cooley, I think, could be your homegrown. Like, I've seen Matt Nyes light. Some people refer to him as like Brady Tkachuk light. I think he's got that build. I'd be curious to see where that ends up. And like you're saying, with that stated, PJ, do they need like a culture shift trade if they have a player within the lineup that can take that step and become that factor? And you also kind of move to a younger version of a Panarin. I'm still weary of that though, because I'm personally not like a Mitch Marner guy. Like that style.
To me, I don't know if we were meaning to go this deeply into Panarin, but to me, it's like, yeah, we ship out Panarin, and everyone's like, oh, well, first of all, he's not realistically, he's probably not going anywhere because he was just part of the reason that Gavrikov came here, So all of a sudden, Panarin's not going to be like, you know what, I hate it here. But anyway, if it were to happen, if the Rangers said, listen, we're not re-signing you, even if you want a team-friendly deal, we don't want you here, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Even if it does happen, you got to bank on Laffy, Cooley. You don't replace Panarin 1-for-1. You replace Panarin by committee. And that's what I've been preaching pretty much all podcasts is like, as a team unit, as a team system, realistically, yes, you need that 100-point guy, which JT Miller is very capable of getting 100 points. Zibanejad, we've seen it. He could put up 70. I mean, even in a very successful season, I think he still has a potential of hitting 80. You replace these guys with people they already have. Laffy has to step up and put up 70, even 80, whatever. He has to. There's no other choice. Cooley, yes, hopefully he's not going to regress. His playing style, his character, he's just going to keep going, I think. Hopefully he puts up another 30, 40, 50 points. Like these guys, it's time for them to take the next step. If they decide to ship out Panarin, you don't necessarily have to get back another Panarin, in my opinion. And I think Coach Ed would probably agree. I'm not trying to call you out, PJ. Robertson's a phenomenal player, but that's just kind of like a lateral move to me where he's just going to be another flashy guy in the regular season. And I know he had a decent playoff. I know he was hurt. But to me, his playing style doesn't move the needle. That's not.
I'm just thinking the fact he's only 25. Like I'm just thinking.
Trust me, I get what you're saying. I'm just rebuttaling it a little bit. Where I think the superstars are already on the Rangers. They just have to take that next step.
Yeah,
I mean, you have Igor in net.
Say that again, Matt.
I said you have Igor in net. Like that. You get in and you can go far with that alone. So, and we saw obviously lived through Lundqvist's tenure as a Ranger, so we know that.
Who was the highest? I'm bringing up Florida again. Who was their highest point getter in the regular season? Was it Barkov?
It's him or Reinhardt. I think it was Reinhardt.
And was it 100?
Probably not. No. Well, he did have 60 goals last year, but did he almost?
Well, he's I don't understand how that happens, but he just doesn't miss. But my point is, yes, they have guys tickling that, but like they don't have anybody putting up like 120, 130, 140 points like other teams have. I mean, Panarin, we've seen it. He has that capability, but like it doesn't really translate in the playoffs. You need that committee, that joint, like just everyone chipping in a little bit, because then a player like Panarin, you're able to just key on him and the rest of the line falls apart, or realistically the rest of the team could fall apart if you're really just banking on one or two guys.
Yeah, I also think Panarin's the type of player that when the ice shrinks,
and we've seen it happen,
he starts to struggle, and like we've seen that time and time again. I did not expect to jump into Panarin tonight, but I love it.
Yeah, it is what it is. That's what
it's tough. It's tough because he kind of
get pushed.
He did help bring them back on the map. I mean, he's been nothing but productive since he's been here, and he's had some big moments. Yeah, he hasn't been quite like he is in the regular season in the playoffs, but he's had some big playoff moments. It's undeniable there. I mean, sure, we want more. Of course, we want more. But
I mean, I know Chris says ship him out of town. I don't necessarily disagree, but I have no problem with him being a secondary piece. Like you have a player like JT Miller. We haven't seen him in the playoffs in a Rangers uniform in a long time. Like you have other players, whereas, like I said, like if you shut down Panarin in the playoffs, there wasn't much else. I mean, Zibanejad scored some clutch goals. I mean, Kreider did his job a little bit 2 years ago in the playoffs. Like if you shut down Panarin, you're not getting that like true like offensive threat. Now they have JT Miller. Now they're trying to build. They're trying to make things happen. And like I said, if Laffy steps up,
well, that was
Laffy doesn't step up,
Laffy,
right?
Yeah, he did it
because they shut down Panarin. But last year they, like Laffy disappears, also Panarin disappears, the whole line falls apart. So you need those other guys that, like, if Panarin disappears in the playoffs, we could say, like, oh, no, tip your cap to the other team. They shut down Panarin. We still won. It's just like you can't just say, like, oh, well, they shut down Panarin. We have zero chance.
I saw Lassie talking about sorry, just to
go ahead.
Add one final point to that. Like, Lassie was talking about on Morning Cup of Hockey, like, Kucherov Panarin, Pasternak, like they were all held to 1 goal or point in a series against Florida. Maybe Matthews too. Like
Right.
these
Yeah,
are
I saw that
all
episode.
they are undeniable. McDavid, like it comes to a point where I think you tip your cap to a team like Florida and say, all right, well, they didn't
Of
just do
course.
it to us; they did it to everyone. But moving forward, that's not the situation you want to be in.
Right, exactly.
I
You say
do-
you say it a lot less words than I do, Matt. So I'll give you that.
I was very efficient, but that's exactly right. But I have to rebuttal this comment by Chris. He's saying Panarin railroaded the rebuild, and I see this on Twitter that the Rangers rebuild failed. Did it? Yeah, they didn't. They had some picks didn't pan out, but they made the conference final twice and had one of the best regular season in history. So yeah, maybe some of the kids we drafted didn't become stars that we wanted, like Kakko, for example. But
Anderson.
I think other teams look at the other teams that have rebuilt. Buffalo, Chicago, San Jose, they would kill for that. Buffalo would kill in the playoffs. So
I don't even think they shouldn't have even really ever called it a rebuild, because realistically, if you sign a player like Panarin, you kind of have a feeling that's going to happen. You know what I mean? So they should have just called it. Well, now teams are calling it a retool. The word rebuild is kind of fizzling out because they see teams like Buffalo, even Chicago now. Everyone's saying, "Oh, they should have taken the next step." It's almost impossible to get out of a rebuild in this league. I mean, I see San Jose doing it, but like even San Jose starting to make those moves where it's like, okay, yeah, we need to. These young kids aren't going to do it all. It's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And Buffalo, I don't know what goes on because it seems like they do sign decent guys, but like it all just goes to shit there. But like these other teams where this NHL, especially when there's like 36 teams, you can't disappear for 5 years. When the hell are you ever going to come back?
And
you know what I mean? Like it's got to be that retool, especially with the salary cap going up and you can afford it. I think we complain about it all the time. The no move and the no trade clause obviously handcuffs a lot of teams, and that's a big issue. But that's never going to change.
Yeah, players will never agree to that.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess let's wrap it up and talk about some Will Cooley, a player that we think is.
Elaborate on our grades. I want to get Matt's grade when we're done so far in the offseason, because then we put those out for everybody. So yeah. Cooley. Signed for 2 years, $3.9 million. And I guess I'll start off by saying Larry Brooks was fear mongering everybody that he was going to be offer sheeted. It was everywhere. And first of all, they never happened. I heard everyone was like this season, especially in the off season with the exploding cap, was going to be off season central. And yeah, you heard the threats for Keandre and stuff like that. But in reality, like they just don't happen. And you could tell, the other people forget that they have to agree to those contracts. But definitely a good deal for Cooley. I think, it helps the Rangers now because they need to fit it. And, I think in 2 years, if he continues what he's going, and Matt said it earlier, the comparisons, Matthew Nice White, all these guys, I'm definitely excited to see him in more expanded role because it's right there for him in all situations.
Yeah, I mean, this is a home run deal. You got him on a bridge, and then you're extending him. I mean, highly likely extending him when the cap's up. So you just this is a time where we talked about the flat cap all night. This is a time where it's like, this is a home run. This is the T. Like, I couldn't picture a better situation. In fact, I talked about Miller being in the worst situation as a free agent. This feels like the best situation. A player that you were able to bridge, and then when he wants that big contract, it's going to come in a time when the cap is supposed to go up and up and up and exponentially grow. I mean, what a better position to be in. And it gives him a little bit more time from the player's end of the bargain, like to excel and grow, and there's not this immense pressure that he just signed, an 8 mil AAV 8-year contract. So I think from that standpoint, on paper, the negotiation itself, great. No offer sheet, like you avoid any of that drama, and you know exactly what you're getting with him, right? It's so simple. So obviously I think everyone in Rangerland can sing his praises, and I'm happy to.
Yeah, I don't think I mean, I've been saying it all episode, but I guess maybe here's some proof. I don't think his playing style really allows for a regression. I mean, other than, I feel like I'm jinxing everything this episode, other than an injury, knock on wood again, his playing style just doesn't fit a regression. You know, like he's not that flashy guy where all of a sudden, like his moves aren't going to work. He's not going to have confidence with the puck. Like his goals come from hard work. I mean, how many times did we see last season of him finishing a shot and ending up on top of the net? You know, that happens to you maybe once in your career. I feel like it happened to him like 3 or 4 times last season. You know, so I feel like he could be that Chris Kreider that we actually always wanted, that hard forechecker, consistent player, you know, like that playing style. And I think that he can easily replace a Chris Kreider on the penalty kill or on the power play. And I guess the penalty kill as well. But realistically on the power play, a player like him, he's never going to be afraid to stand in front of the net. He's going to take the beating if he has to, and he'll get open and he'll create havoc down low if he has to. Player like him, very coachable. If Coach Ed was here, I'll agree with him. If we had 20 or whatever, 20 players like Cooley on the team, you'd be very successful. You know, like that kind of mentality, that kind of coachability. Like I said, you tell him to do something, he's going to go out there the next shift and just do it. Or at least that's what it seems like to me. And I love watching him play. He quickly turned into my favorite forward. And I don't really see that changing as long as he continues on this path. And I think he's a Matthew Tkachuk or a Brady Tkachuk light. He's not going to be like this like nasty, like chirping guy like they are. But like, how many hits did he throw last year? Didn't he break the Rangers record?
Sure did.
Single season record, you know? So like that doesn't go away. What I was saying about Keandre not happening overnight, the opposite's going to happen with Cooley. That doesn't go away overnight. Just because he signed a contract, he's going to want that next big contract, and it's going to come because that kid's going to be awesome.
And kind of like you said, you know, regression, not being able to regress the way he plays, that's probably the reason, right, where he was still good last year despite all the shit around him.
Right, exactly. It doesn't matter. Players like that make other players excel. They create time and space for the skill guys.
Yeah, and I know we hate him, but yeah, I remember him. He said his game was modeled after Tom Wilson when he was drafted. So, wouldn't hate it. I hate the guy, but the guy you want on your team. So there you go.
I don't want Cooley throwing sucker punches and getting suspended and stuff. But if he's going to toe the line a little bit, by all means, we need that. I'll bring up Florida again. You need it in hockey. That's how hockey was meant to be played. I mean, it just was. It's a dirty, disgusting, hard game. You know, like. Mark Messier, every Ranger fan praised like he's a god. He was the dirtiest player in the league.
True. Facts.
Go back and watch videos of Mark Messier throwing elbows, knocking Mike Modano out cold when the puck wasn't even near him. That's how hockey was and how it always will be.
Yeah. You saw them at the parade. Bennett wasn't apologizing for shit. What he was doing in that playoffs. I mean, and you can't be.
Listen, I don't want anyone to get seriously injured. That's not what I'm saying, and I hope the fans don't think that. But the hockey's a rough game, and it's meant to be played that way.
True. All right, we want to. So Matt, we did grades. We'll give ours, and then you can finish it off with us. We kind of just as a teaser, all gave our so far off-season grades for Drury and the Rangers. So I'll give a shout out to that Ranger girl. Allie, who I heard gave me crap because I gave Drury an A-, and I just wanted to elaborate that the minus doesn't mean a negative thing. I mean, his moves, every one of his moves was an A+ move. So I'm starting back with Sullivan was an A+ move. The contracts for Rempe and Edstrom are A+. The Cooley contract is A+. The Gavrikov contract was phenomenally done. I mean, yeah, do you want them to move for 5 years? Maybe that's where that minus kicks in a little. But the Keandre trade he nailed. The only minus it wasn't for what he did. It was maybe I was hoping for maybe like a young player. You heard him, I wanted Rossi back. We talked about it episodes ago, or maybe I heard Nate just was available. Something like that would have gave me the plus, like some other forward. I just feel like despite them giving opportunities for kids right now, which is cool, one more forward to kind of replace Kreider would have been cool to throw in there and add to the mix, but I guess the offseason is technically not done, but so far A- for me. Little Ed.
I'm sticking with my A+, man. You trade away Keandre for whatever, some more potential. We talked about it all episode. I mean, I would have been happy with anything. So trade him away for something great. This Gavrikov signing, especially Cooley. I mean, what more can you ask for? There wasn't anything else out there for him to get. And I mean, you have to include Kreider in the offseason, like you said. I mean, everything he's been doing, you can't really knock him at all at this point.
It does feel like the Drury, haters who were out and pitchforks ablaze before this offseason, before even July 1, it was getting pretty antsy on, Twitter and social media. I don't know what you saw on that, but people were very nervous. It didn't look like much was going to happen. If it did, it wasn't going to be good. But I think they're a little bit more quiet now. I think Cousin Ed tweeted that out, from our account. No one's clowning Drury now as much. So what's your opinion, Matt?
I'm going and stamping a solid A on the assignment for Chris Drury. And I was thinking about A-, but, Little Ed, you made a great point about what was available. I don't think what was available was enticing for the Rangers situation. When you have a free agent like Artemi Panarin fall in your lap, that's a different story. Nikolai Ehlers, that I think is something the Rangers did not need. On top of that, we look at the moves you mentioned, the players they signed. I still have my reservations about Miller and PJ. I think it was a great point to mention that I think a move for like an Isaac Howard would have been enticing. And although I do appreciate the way the lineup might be structured and the possibility for Hoffman and Perreault to earn a role, I like that. I'd also like if they had one more bona fide NHLer. I thought the Radish move was good in that respect, but Edstrom, Carrick, Rempe, fourth line would be phenomenal. But again, it's a year where you have an injury. Is Brodzinski. I love Johnny Brodzinski. Great guy, great person. I love the role he plays for the team. But do you want him playing 60 games? If you're seriously contending for a playoff spot, do you want Berard and I feel that there was opportunity to maybe try and acquire a more bona fide player. Now, granted, I'm also the person on our show that sings Brodzinski's praises. I love what the fourth line did, what Carrick did this season. But I also know, the teams you're going to be competing against, I think, are a little more flushed out and deep in the East. So, again, it's a question mark in that respect. I don't want to tack on a minus for those reasons. So I think this turned what could have been an F day into an A day. This was like if you crammed for the exam all night and you passed the day up. Like that's what this felt like for Chris Drury. And I know it sounds like he's got a lot of support from the ownership group and the organization. This year is going to be the test for him. So I think for all the work he did last season and this, coming into this offseason, again, I mentioned earlier, the 180 from that Goodrow move, wherever your opinion lies on that, I think it's a good step in the right direction for next season. And I have definitely a lot more hope this year.
Yeah, you nailed it. That's exactly where my mind, I understand why I didn't give him a minus, and that was, you're right, but that's exactly where my head was at. Just one more guy would have been nice. A center maybe too was, ultimately you're right. If Mika does play on the wing, that's what you're worried about. If Parson and Brodzinski can't anchor that third line. Again, I guess you could always get that at the deadline if all goes well, but a Hirsch is giving me so much.
The chat. That New York Ranger girl's PJ's burner account.
I don't know who that's more offensive to.
What I was going to say is we also
Little Ed. I was going to say the going rate for 3C, Christian Dvorak was like $4 million too. So that was a tough. It wasn't like it was very available.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, they would have had to definitely move out Susie. Like there would have to be subsequent moves to be able to make it happen. But that's kind of where my head was at. Like ideally, if you can give me the perfect offseason, that would have been it. But I'd said it on the last show. I was dying for them to get me excited. I am excited. I finally wore Ranger stuff in public for the first time in months. I was embarrassed because I live near Philly, so I just didn't need the smoke walking around after that past season. But I'm wearing them proud lately. I'm excited for the season again. Can't wait for opening night. Let's go.
Nice. The one thing I was going to add is we didn't really mention Drury, I guess, signing Sullivan. It seems like we've been harping on it is like they have to be working together. They have to be targeting the right guys, the right players of what Sullivan wants in his system or on his team. And I think that's very important. I think we're seeing it come to fruition. Like Drury's targeting what we see as fans that they need. So obviously, like Coach had said before, obviously they're seeing it too. So they're targeting what they need. And I think Sullivan has a lot to do with that too. A positive influence, I should say. So to me, that's another reason why it wasn't like someone out there where you're like, God, I wish Drury went after that guy. I wish he did this. I wish he there's not really much. You could tweak things here and there. Sure, PJ, you're a lot better at that than I am. But there's not much you could say hey, I wish they really got oh, right, they did get Gavrikov. Oh, I wish they traded him. Oh, yeah, they did. They got rid of Miller too. It's just it's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. Like you said, it's back into some positive vibes. And hopefully, listen, we had a lot of positive vibes last summer too. So hopefully this time
I wouldn't
the
say
players
that.
aren't going to – well, we had high hopes going into the season.
Higher, yeah. But the moves weren't that was the point of me last summer. The last offseason – it looked like there was going to be excitement, but then when Trouba didn't get traded, it just all backfired and nothing really happened. But yeah, they are a better team today. I'm excited for Sullivan. And I got it. I don't know if Johnny Laz is listening to this, but he put out that thing on Twitter that he doesn't still think the Rangers are a playoff team. And my rebuttal to that is they were an abomination last season and still only missed by 6 points, which is 3 wins. If they just went instead of 4-15, they went 7-8. They're in the playoffs. Yeah. So
you also got to bank on some other teams shitting the bed a little bit and regressing as well.
For sure. And it's definitely gonna be a battle. There's a lot of teams in that mix, and it's been a weird off season because I feel like there wasn't a ton of big free agents and there wasn't a ton of big movement trades. It almost feels like everything kind of stuck. Like a lot of teams didn't do what they want to do. I'm curious if there'll be more, late season, all summer trades than typical.
Yeah, it seems like there might be. I agree, and also to address some needs, but PJ's burner, that's so good. Well, I'm glad you could wear some Ranger stuff in public, man. That's no reason for shame, especially in that market in Philly.
Yeah, I know, but it's just they embarrassed me so much last year the way they played. I just couldn't. I wasn't proud to be a fan last year the way they acted.
I think the Gavrikov moves does solidify at least wild card contention. That's crazy that one move can swing it like that for a player that's not like fireworks, but Adam Fox having a steady part, it really does set, and also a lot of question marks. So I understand, I think, where that question comes from and that answer comes from, but at the same time, I think I comfortably said it all last year too. You win 3 games in that horrible stretch, and it might be a different season. Now, obviously, all hypotheticals, but moving forward, like you said, Little Ed too, you have to hope that a team like Jersey maybe sustain, maybe not hope on an injury, but if they suffer an injury, you hope that damages the team, right?
Let's be real. Jack Hughes is getting shoulder surgery again.
Yeah, that's the situation that's interesting too. Like you said, he's built like me. This is why I'm on the show, man. So
No, I cut you off there. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna.
I know you're not hoping for injuries.
Honestly, this was off the dome. We've been going for so long. I think at this point we're just going straight off the top here. But no, I mean definitely in a better last summer, like you said, not a lot happened, unfortunately. But coming into the year, man, they won that first game in Pittsburgh, pretty dominant. But that game in Utah was, I feel like everybody collectively didn't feel good about that loss. But yeah, I think you start off on the right foot this year, and the moves in the offseason I think move the needle.
Yeah, I agree. PJ?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see where they go. I'm just excited again to see where they go and have some hope. But you got to figure if any of these guys, Loft bounces, and these aren't that big of ifs to me. Loft just goes back, takes another step. Mika doesn't cry for 3 months. And you get a full season of JT. That alone, plus Gavrikov, and then some young infusion with Morrow. That alone with Igor and Sullivan, to me, you're right there. And then you hope for other steps from other guys, and then it's even more. And we've seen this team under first years of coaches, Gallant, Laviolette, and Sullivan. Hopefully Sullivan's the trio, and that's the extra push we need.
I agree, man. High hopes. I think that about wraps it up. Like Matt said, we've been going for almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
People in the chat, I cannot thank you guys enough for sticking with us as always. Yeah, we always have you guys, our loyal fans, some new fans jumping in. Absolutely love it. Keep the questions coming. You can always hit us up on any of our social networks if you want us to talk about something next episode. We got a big episode next week. We're going to be joined by Rob Schremp, ex-NHLer. He's been on the show before. Rob's going to catch us up on what he's been up to and give us some thoughts on the CBA, the new CBA, and what's been going on in the NHL, and I guess what's different between now and when he was in the league. So looking forward to catching up with Rob next week. Matt, thank you so much for being on the show. You did a phenomenal job.
Yes.
Summarizing everything I was saying in shorter words. I love that. But no, for real, man, you really brought some good analytics and broke some things down and made a lot of sense of some confusing things for us. So appreciate it.
Oh, thank you
He
guys.
was like our editor.
Last two things I saw. One person say talk about Gavin McKenna. Brother was at he attended Penn State. My older brother. So they got me into college hockey. So like that whole thing is crazy. I know you guys will probably talk about it next, Evie, but PJ, you're going to be overrun by it in Philly, I'm sure, in no time. And second, Rob Schremp, my friend, he chose his jersey number because of him, which is pretty bananas. Because obviously respectable NHL career, but it wasn't like, Sidney Crosby at the time, right? So it's just funny you mentioned that name. It brought me back to that. But yeah, boys, loved coming on. It was great to finally get on board, and we'll have you guys on the show too soon. This summer's the best time.
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
Yeah, for sure, man. We'll definitely collab more with posts and shows and whatever you need. Like if you ever need us to jump on and fill a spot, same for you. You're always welcome. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Thanks,
Matt, do you want to plug all your socials? And
go for it.
Yeah, everything's Puck Talk CS, man. I know it's like the most bizarre name for a Ranger podcast, but yeah, we made the switch over a few years ago. We were talking all NHL, but Puck Talk CS _ podcast. It's funny. There was a movie, like a funny all-time comedy movie. I'm thinking right now in my head where one of the characters is like, yeah, I'm a Twitter junkie. That's how I introduce myself now to people. It's like, oh, you're the guy that's on Twitter. It's like, yeah, unfortunately. So X Matthew Mugno, Mugno MA. Yeah, those are really my channels. I stick to the simple guns. So Puck Talk CS, Mugno MA. Man, it's been a fun journey meeting everyone in the Ranger community too these last few years. So let's keep it rolling.
Well
Love
said.
that. Yeah, guys. Hirsch said it in the comments. Definitely comment on the video. I hate to be this guy, but like it, subscribe to the channel, comment. We need it. Love you guys. Great show. That's about it, baby. Let's go Rangers.
Yep. Let's go. Peace.